Welcome here to the Ty Walker Show. All the sports news worthy to report. As today we're going to start off with breaking news. First off, Giants quarterback Daniel Jones will miss the remainder of the season with a torn ACL, as confirmed by Coach Brian Daboll. And also in the NFC East, Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert will miss at least 4 weeks due to a fractured forearm, expected to have surgery, and he is a candidate to go on the injured reserve. Let's go ahead and get to our first story of the day. All good vibes in Germany as the Chiefs take down the Miami Dolphins 21-14 in Germany to earn their 7th win on the year. Chiefs move to 7-2 as the Dolphins move to 6-3, and the Chiefs stay the number 1 seed in the AFC. So the Chiefs, they started hot in the first half. They were up 21-0 at halftime due to 2 touchdown passes led by quarterback Patrick Mahomes to wide receiver Rashee Rice and the other one to running back Jerick McKinnon. The Chiefs got their last touchdown of the first half after a catch by wide receiver Tyreek Hill of the Dolphins led to a forced fumble by Trent McDuffie that was picked up by Mike Edwards and pitched to Brian Cook to go 59 yards for the score.
Tua out to Hill, and that goes nowhere. Ball's loose. It is loose and picked up and lateraled. Brian Cook. Touchdown.
They end up reviewing the play to see if Tyreek Hill actually caught the football, in which he did. Trent McDuffie kind of helped him with it, kind of keeping that ball into Tyreek Hill's chest to keep Tyreek Hill having possession of the football, so end up being a touchdown. That happened just before halftime, so the Chiefs went up 21-0 at the halftime. That was the halftime score. Dolphins, they came out in the second half, though. They scored 2 touchdowns, one to wide receiver Cedric Wilson, and a rushing TD from running back Raheem Mostert. I don't think that second one would have happened. Kind of got helped by an unnecessary roughness penalty by Chris Jones. If that didn't happen, we'd be quite looking at a whole different score here. Instead of 21-14, possibly looking at 21-10 as the score here. But when the game was on the line to win it, in the final possession, Tua, he wet the bed. 3rd and 10. Tua went to pass. He had a wide open Cedric Wilson that would have been a touchdown and severely underthrew him. A lot of people were speculating on if the ball was tipped. It didn't look like it was tipped. It looked like a perfect spiral. It just, he severely underthrew the football. And forcing 4th down and 10, Tua fumbled the snap and was tackled by Brian Cook to secure a Chiefs win. This didn't come without its mishaps, though, for Kansas City, as Bradley Chubb in the second half forced a fumble on Mahomes that led to that Raheem Mostert touchdown to make it 21-14. And Mahomes really struggled in the second half in whole. One thing we could say about this whole game, though, is if you ever doubted this defense ever, this may shut up the critics that doubted it, as the Dolphins had the best offense in the league this year going into this game. Chiefs held them to 14 points on the day. All points obviously came in the second half, obviously. Game stats presented by W Energy. If you want to save money on W Energy, just use code MSN Racing. The MSN and the R in Racing, all capital. Rest of Racing is all lowercase. And to earn 10% off your order on WEnergy.com. Kansas City stats first. Mahomes 20 of 30 for 185 almost said pounds. I meant to say yards and 2 touchdowns. Kansas City's leading rusher was Isaiah Pacheco with 16 carries for 66 yards. Chiefs' leading receiver really wasn't much receiving yards in bulk for anybody, as the Chiefs' leading receiver is Noah Gray, 3 receptions for 34 yards. Chiefs forced only 1 turnover, as it was Trent McDuffie's 4th forced fumble on the season. Chiefs sacked Tua Tagovailoa 3 times on the day. Mike Dano, Tershawn Wharton, and Jalen Watson all with 1. I was surprised that they didn't list the Brian Cook tackle on the fumble at the end of the game as a sack. I count it as a sack, but in the stat sheet, it's not a sack. So I think you should put an asterisk there on the 3. I think it should be 4. Chiefs' leading tackle, though, was Trent McDuffie. He had 10 total tackles. Here's the Dolphins' stats. Tua Tagovailoa, 21 of 34 for 193 yards and a touchdown. Dolphins' leading rusher was Raheem Mostert, 12 carries, 85 yards and a touchdown. Dolphins' leading receiver was Tyreek Hill, but he didn't really have much. 8 receptions, 62 yards in the day. He also had one rush for 3 yards, adding up to 65 yards on the day. Kind of shutting up Tyreek Hill a little bit. Dolphins only 2 sacks in the day, one for Jaleb Phillips and a strip sack from Bradley Chubb. And the Dolphins' leading tackler was Zach Seiler. He had 7 tackles on the day. But let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. As the NASCAR Championship weekend happened at Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, Arizona. So in all 3 series, the champions have been decided in a week full of championship talk, and also Kevin Harvick's final race in the NASCAR Cup Series. Kevin Harvick officially retired, had his final race in the NASCAR Cup Series. Hate to see Kevin Harvick retired. A pretty great career as a champion in the series. Hopefully retirement goes well for Kevin Harvick. Well, in the NASCAR Cup Series, your champion in the NASCAR Cup Series was Ryan Blaney. He finished second at Phoenix Raceway, runner-up to Ultimate Race winner in Ross Chastain. So Ryan Blaney is your 2023 NASCAR Cup Series champion. But there is a little controversy. What is the controversy, you ask? It's the championship format. You know, a lot of people like to talk about how bad the MLB format is now. Well, you think that's bad. The NASCAR format is pretty bad for the championship. If you don't know what the format is, here it is. You start off with 16 playoff drivers. So you have a certain amount of races. Playoff field decided after the race at Daytona. So Darlington this year was the first playoff race. You have 16 drivers. 3 races in each round except for the final round, which was the championship round. In each round, 4 drivers are eliminated. And if you win a race, you automatically advance to the next round. Within the non-winners, the people that do not win in each round, it is determined by points, stage points, and points collected on each race. Each round points resets. Every stage point is added together. Stage point or win points, whatever it's called, playoff points, there we go, are added up for each round to determine each points even after the points reset in each round. But in the championship, though, it's a little bit different. Championship, though, everything resets to 4,000 points. And whoever finishes the race first out of every remaining playoff driver out of the 4 is your champion. Well, here's the problem. In all 3 series, I think the least, I guess we could say least, one of them, I wouldn't say least, but one of the least deserving drivers won the title. We're going to start off with the Truck Series, okay? We're gonna start from the bottom, work our way to the top. In the NASCAR Camping World, NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, there we go. Your champion this year was Ben Rhodes. So out of the 4 drivers, he was the least deserving. Here is the reason why he was the least deserving, and here's how he won the championship. Well, first off, the 2 favorites kind of wrecked each other out, and a race rivalry, I kind of say it. Carson Hocevar earlier in the race spun Corey Heim, putting Corey Heim ultimately in the back of the field. He had no damage, also involved Stuart Friesen. He ended up getting a ton of damage, though. But as the race continued on, Corey Heim caught up to Carson Hocevar to try to lap him, and he decided to wreck Carson Hocevar, ending Hocevar's day and ruining Heim's championship chances. Well, in the old method of points, Corey Heim would be crowned as the champion before the race even started. I always like to look at this points format to see how it would look. But he had a 136-point lead over second place in Grant Enfinger, which is crazy. But now we got to talk about Ben Rhodes and why he should not have been the champion. Now, in my eyes, I got to say, I don't think he should have been in the championship for. I think it should have been Nick Sanchez. But if you look at these points, these are how the Winston Cup points were kind of set up. He'd be in 4th place, 265 points back behind Corey Heim. But next up, we have the NASCAR Xfinity Series, in which the champion this year was Cole Custer. Now, points-wise, he was kind of in the same scenario as Ben Rhodes. Cole Custer, he was 4th in points, just like Ben Rhodes. The old format, he would be 304 points behind John Hunter Nemechek, who in the old points would be the champion, and I think we agree he was the most deserving champion. But here I want to throw out some more data, some analytical data. I'll even throw this out here for Ben Rhodes. Custer was the only person in this analytical data that actually led some of the pieces in the data. So I'm going to start out here with Cole Custer, here in the analytical data. Cole Custer, you look here. Okay, you see his name a couple of times in some of this data, okay? He was number 1 in average starting position with a 5.86. He had the most poles on the year in 6. He had the longest consecutive top 10s in a row in 11. Largest minimum driver rating in a 69.7. Highest playoff driver rating in a 123.5. Highest percentage of laps as the fastest car on the season, 69.2%. And the most points scored in the playoffs in 200. Now you take a look at Ben Rhodes' data. He leads nothing. Ben Rhodes led 0 categories in the analytical data we just brought up with Cole Custer. 0 categories. Is that a deserving champion? Not in my eyes. I will say this, out of the 3 champions we had, I think Cole Custer was the most deserving. Cole Custer, I believe, had the most wins out of all 3 champions. It might have been a tie, actually, between Blaney and Custer. I may be wrong. I think Custer had the most wins. But I think, overall, looking at analytical data, the most deserving champion was Cole Custer. Now we get to Ryan Blaney. So points-wise, Winston Cup points-wise, I'll say this. Ben Rhodes and Cole Custer both sitting 4th in points, not bad. But here in the Cup Series, if we ran Winston points-wise, Ryan Blaney would be 7th in points, 196 points back from William Byron. In the old format, if they were running a championship 4 then, he wouldn't even be in the championship 4. It'd be William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Chris Rebel. William Byron and Chris Rebel would be the only 2 that actually made the championship 4 to actually be in it. On whole season-wise, Ryan Blaney wasn't really that impressive. Only 18 top 10s, 8 top 5. Most of those came in the final races of the season. Average finish of a 14.083 out of 36 races this year. So how did he win the championship? Well, the playoff format I talked about, if you get hot just at the right time in the playoffs and those final races, you're the best guy. Now, is this how it's supposed to work? Well, most sports, yes. NASCAR is a different story, though. A lot of people, diehard NASCAR fans, know the Winston points, like I've been talking about, in which if you're the best all season long, you are the champion. Blaney, before this playoff started, had 1 win. That 1 win came at Charlotte in the Coke 600. Now, it was an impressive win, and it was a deserving win also. He ended up rattling off 2 more wins as the playoffs closed. He got a win at Talladega and another win in Martinsville to lock himself in to the race in Phoenix for the championship. Also, to add on to that, before Ryan Blaney won those races, he was most likely to be eliminated, so he kind of got saved by the bell with winning those races. So I've mentioned my analytical data for Cole Custer and Ben Rhodes. Let's go ahead and get into the analytical data for Ryan Blaney. Besides where it says champion Ryan Blaney, do you see Ryan Blaney's name anywhere on this analytical data? No, you don't. In fact, he's just like Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes wasn't on there either. And if you look up closely at it, if you look at it just down the chart, Blaney was actually worse than Ben Rhodes. So looking at analytical data, Ryan Blaney should even be the champion. You look at this analytical data, man. Heck, William Byron should have been the champion. Or Chris Buescher, I see his name a lot there. Same with Kyle Larson. Some of the guys that should have won the championship this year. So how can NASCAR change this championship format? Because obviously we know this is a big problem for NASCAR, is this championship format. How do we change it? Well, we can just redo the whole thing and we can go back to the Winston format. I think a lot of people would be happy if that happened, as if NASCAR went back to the Winston Cup format. Or what if we did this altogether? We went to Championship 4, you still do the one race. Or even added more races. Do 3 races in the final round to decide the champion. And do it points-wise the same way it was done in the previous round, but instead, wins only add more points. If you win, you're not automatically the championship. You're not automatically the champion. Wins just get you more points. I think those are some easier ways to help out the championship format. But how about this? Smoking that 2-6 giant pack, I guess. That's what the Raiders did after beating the New York Giants 30-6, not even a week after they fired former head coach of the Raiders, Josh McDaniels. This game was never close. Daniel Jones, obviously, like we said in the opening of this episode, left with a torn ACL. Ended up having to bring in third-string quarterback Tommy DeVito. The way the Raiders celebrated this game, it was like they won the Super Bowl, with Insta Live showing the Raiders players in the locker room playing music, smoking cigars. In my opinion, it's a little bit too much, as they beat a team that's 2-6. That's a celebration you do when you're beating a team at 6-2 for this Raiders team. Not a celebration you do when you beat out a third-string quarterback like they did in Tommy DeVito and the Giants. Meanwhile, we had mayhem in Houston also yesterday. Well, it's a competitor for Game of the Year, 100%. And what happened in Houston yesterday as a thriller happened. The Houston Texans took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this one was a good game. 39-37 was the final. The Houston Texans were on top. C.J. Stroud went off with a rookie record 470 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. Houston also had 3 receivers over 100 yards as well. Noah Brown was the leading receiver, 153 yards and a touchdown. Tight end Dalton Schultz, 130 yards and a tutty. Tank Dell, 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. And also just handed out touchdowns everywhere. Even Nico Collins even got a touchdown. Texans' leading rusher was Devin Singletary, 13 carries, 26 yards. Texans sacked Baker Mayfield twice. Rookie Will Anderson with a sack alongside with Khalil Davis. Bucs, even in this loss, had a heck of a game. Baker Mayfield, 21 of 30, 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their leading rusher was Rachaad White, 20 carries, 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bucs receiving Mike Evans, 4 receptions, 87 yards. And Cade Otton, 6 receptions, 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. So good game for Cade Otton. Bucs had 3 sacks on quarterback C.J. Stroud, 1 for Devin White, 1 for rookie Kalijah Kancey, and 1 for Shaq Barrett. In the late window of games, in the 3 o'clock games, Central Time, we had a great NFC East matchup between 2 rivals, the choking Cowboys, as what happened in this game, and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles survived the Cowboys, winning 28-23. Taking a look at the stats, Jalen Hurts, 17 of 23, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eagles' leading rusher was DeAndre Swift with 18 carries and 43 yards. Jalen Hurts and Kenneth Gainwell with rushing TDs each. Eagles' leading receiver was A.J. Brown, but it wasn't as good as you thought. 7 receptions, 66 yards, 1 touchdown. So that streak of 125 yards plus is over. Also receiving touchdown for Devonta Smith. Eagles, they get 5 sacks on Dak Prescott, Josh Sweat with 1, Hassan Reddick with 1, Brandon Graham with 1.5, Nakobe Dean with a half a sack, Jalen Carter a half a sack, and Fletcher Cox a half a sack. For the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, 29 of 44, 374 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cowboys' leading rusher was Tony Pollard, 12 carries, 51 yards. Cowboys' leading receiver was CeeDee Lamb, 11 receptions, 191 yards. Jake Ferguson, Jalen Tolbert, and Devontae Turpin, all with receiving touchdowns from Dak Prescott. Cowboys sacked Jalen Hurts 3 times, Micah Parsons 1.5 sacks, Sam Williams 1 sack, and Dorrance Armstrong with a half a sack. Then finally, to end it on Sunday Night Football, 2 AFC giants collided in prime time. On paper, this looked like it could be one of the matchups of the year. The Bills and the Bengals, 2 great quarterbacks and 2 juggernauts in the AFC collided. What happened in this game may surprise you, though. Yes, the score at the end may have looked close, as Cincinnati won this game 24-18, but in all honesty, it really wasn't. Heading into halftime, it was 21-7 Cincinnati, and the Bills looked desperate. They weren't getting anything going on offense. Josh Allen threw a pick. That doesn't help at all. They just looked desperate to score. They end up coming back, though, making it a 6-point ball game, but ultimately falling to Cincinnati. Taking a look at the game stats here. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, 31-44, 348 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Bengals leading rusher is Joe Mixon, 14 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown. Bengals leading receiver was T. Higgins, 8 receptions and 110 yards. Bengals picked Josh Allen off once. The only turnover that they forced was from Cam Taylor-Britt. Bengals also got 1 sack from B.J. Hill. Leading tackler was Mike Hilton with 10 tackles. For the Bills, Josh Allen was 26-38, 258 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Bills leading rusher was Josh Allen as well, 8 carries, 44 yards, and a touchdown. Bills leading receiver was Stephon Diggs with 6 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Bills only 1 sack, and it was split between Jordan Phillips and Leonard Floyd. Leading tackler was Jordan Poyer with 11. But with this loss for Buffalo, they are currently out of the playoffs if it started here today. Going to try to keep this last part short and sweet, but last but not least, we have Monday Night Football, or what I like to call it this week. It's Monday Night Football. The Monday Night Mid-Off, the 3-4 Chargers head to MetLife Stadium, take on the 4-3 Jets. Taking a look at the betting market for today's game. Betting line, as for the spread, Chargers minus 3-point favorites, over under 39.5, money line, Los Angeles minus 183. New York Jets plus 153. Chargers 8-4 against the spread on the road since the start of 2022. Jets have hit the under the last 5 out of 6 home games. My picks, I'm taking the Jets. Do I believe in Zach Wilson? No, but I do believe in this defense. It is one of the best defenses in the league. I also believe that Wilson has the weapons to get him the win today. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Dalvin Cook, and Al Lazard. And also, Chargers are going to be missing one of their wide receivers, Joshua Palmer. So that's going to be another big factor. Expect Quentin Johnson in a bigger role here against the Jets. My score prediction, Jets 24, Chargers 17. Thank you guys for watching the Ty Walker Show here today. I'm your host, Ty Walker. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.